If you're a helper, make sure that what you're doing is actually helpful and that what you're giving is rewarding the behavior that you want. Because so often we're giving and the unintended consequence is that it's rewarding behavior that we don't want. So it's actually quite destructive, even though we might feel good about helping. And rescuing is not generally helpful. This could look like rescuing, help that promotes sobriety, supports learning, supports emancipation, is generally actually quite helpful. So independent coach, getting counseling, or paying for counseling, doing inquiry. Some families will match pay rather than just give money, but the requirement is that they have to be working. What are family goals, healthy family goals? It's becoming free of unresolved attachments to your family of origin. So really looking at the family patterns that have probably gone on for generations and styles of communication, styles of rescuing, seeing like how similar it is from one generation to the next. So the children or former children are functioning, independent, emancipated adults. That everyone can take action independently of the emotionality that's all around them. And that we're not triangulating, so involving a third person to help us figure out something with another person. And by being able to process your own anxiety and figuring out what you actually think and confronting or dealing with the person yourself. Having good boundaries and clarity. This is who I am and this is what I will do, and following through with it. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that know exactly what they're going to do and what they won't do, but when it comes right down to it, they're not able to do it. Often this is because there has been such a pattern of years and decades of enabling or codependence that it's a much more difficult thing to stop than meets the eye. It is not as easy as just, hey, just don't give him money the next time he asks. Like, you really have to look at what is that going to cause in you? Where is that going to trigger you? And what might that person say that's going to get you to do what you don't want to do? And rehearsing that in advance. So the members are close but separate. People are engaged with each other, but there's a compassionate indifference, allowing people to solve their own problems. Members are able to respect differing points of views. We don't all have to be Democrats, or we don't all have to be heterosexual. We can have a variety of human beings that can belong in the system. These are just some practices. Do I know the difference between thinking and feeling? I often have people do a 2-column graph when they have a problem and writing down what are the feelings and what are the thoughts. And you'd be surprised how many people cannot tell the difference between a thought and a feeling. So it's a really useful thing. That's a really important one about being able to act rationally, is at least be able to see what's a thought and what's a feeling. And become fluent in feeling your feelings. Like when we do the rest at the beginning, can I tell even what I am feeling? Can I label a feeling in my body? And am I able to observe thought? Are thoughts thinking me? Or can I step back and take a look and observe my own thoughts? And one way to look at that is just noticing if you're thinking in words or pictures. Just watch. Nothing to do, just like you're watching TV. Just watch what's going on in your mind. And then finally, can I rest with what is arising? Like even if I'm having a disturbing feeling or having a disturbing thought, can I just allow it to be there without needing to do anything? Can I just stand still and not retreat and not move toward? And that is actually the basic skill of frustration tolerance that some of the early cognitive behavioral people like Albert Ellis said is the most important human skill is frustration tolerance. We would call it as resting with what is. It is also frustration tolerance. And we can build that through practice. What does natural rest have to do with this? It's noticing feelings, noticing thoughts, cultivating the ability to be with and not act on. And it's looking at what we think is threatening, looking at our fears, and rather than just reacting, which is how our brain is programmed to be, that we can apply our higher order reasoning to this and actually see through what was formerly a threat that might have been wired as a threat in childhood. And the threat that we're seeing now is something like that because the brain generalizes. But when we actually take a look at it, it's not what we think it is. And it's so freeing to see that. And seeing through our own commands to act, like, so often we find ourselves doing something that it was just a reaction. Well, going back and looking at it through inquiry, and what was that moment that you moved from inaction to action? Like, what was the thing that happened that made it a requirement for you to do something? So also knowing one's insides, it's a lot like knowing feelings, but it's also about knowing the felt sense. So felt senses are inchoate feelings in the body that do not yet have a name, and they have a description. You can describe them, like a dark, murky feeling or a heavy feeling, and being able to pay attention more to that so that it can grow and reveal what's that all about. Because all of our experience is held in the body. Our body reacts to everything that's going on. And the reward is being free from the compulsion to react, free from the compulsion to rescue, free from the compulsion to use, free from the compulsion to do that which we don't want to do, which is a pretty good payoff.